the new release with the orchestra. Um, how did you come to collaborate with them? Because I'm really curious about that.
Well, it was more of an opportunity. I mean, Moonspell, it's celebrating 33 years in 2025. So we started off in 92. And we've done a lot of stuff. We've done a lot of music, and done a lot of experiments going on tour throughout the world. And we understand from a very early age in our career that's especially coming out of Portugal, which is not the staple market for metal bands, even though there's a lot of metal bands, and now there's also another band making a lot of success, Garia, from here from Portugal. We decided to, when the pandemic was over and everything was a little bit better for mankind, or at least slightly better, we decided, let's grab some chances, let's grab some opportunities that will show up. Let's make a new album after we go through a certain path. And actually, the concert with the Symphony de Lisboa was one of those opportunities. We were not really thinking, it wasn't really in our plans, so to speak. But I got a call from one of the biggest promoters in Portugal. He wanted Moonspell to headline Lisboa Mero Arena, which is where Iron Maiden, Dream Theater, Slipknot, all the big names play. We've played there first time around 99, supporting Marilyn Manson on a Mechanical Animals tour. And then we went again for some festivals, but we never had done our own show. I understood perfectly this will have to be a step up, and it will be a big production, and that it has to be something that people, Moonspell fans, never saw before. So, I mean, the opportunity was there. And then we just dwell into the music, into the arrangements, with the orchestra, into the rehearsals. And in the process, we just said, well, I think it's a fantastic opportunity also to have this document live, both a live album and the DVD pack. And it's going great. I mean, even though DVDs do not sell anymore, we just are sold out of our first edition. We have to make more. And we haven't done 50, we have done much more. So people are really responding really well. I think they can understand it's a very authentic live show and not just a placeholder. Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely see. I mean, you've done so many tours through the years. I've seen you countless of times by now. This must be something like completely new then for you, if you not really worked with an orchestra like that before.
Well, I've always been me and a lot of metalheads. We always had at the side of our collection, we always had classical music. Not every classical music, but I was really drawn into very strong composers from Russia, like Mussorgsky or Prokofiev or Stravinsky. The powerful stuff that connects with the heavy metal, like Dies Irae from Verdi, Requiem. And there was a connect, there was a certain magnitude that I wanted to capture within the Moonspell music, because up to we work with an orchestra, we had somewhat melodic, sometimes symphonic or orchestral vibe into some of our songs, and we made it our little keyboards. So we were quite curious to see what was the real thing. After the appetizer, what will be the real dish? So I think that's, as a first experience, it went down almost perfectly, because I heard horror stories from other musicians that work with classical musicians, and that they do not get along, or they have artistic differences. Also, an orchestra, it's a bunch of people. It's not like a band. So our orchestra, it wasn't the biggest, but it was already like 45 people, and the maestro and all the assistants. But I'm very glad that everybody was very focused. Everybody was very happy in doing this, both Moonspell and the orchestra, and the process was really smooth. And I think when you see the live DVD, the live video of the whole show, you can see that the band, it's very at ease, very relaxed, and enjoying the moment, and so are the orchestra. And I think that's something that doesn't happen all the time. We live the times of stress and anxiety, and having to fulfill deadlines and having to negotiate everything with people. in the music business and the music industry. So it was quite a welcoming break to work with these amazing musicians and this amazing maestro. Things went really smooth. It was one of the reasons why we always also turned down other offers to go to Spain or Mexico or to the east with an orchestra. I think the first one we wanted to experiment, it had to be in our hometown of Lisbon, Portugal.
Yes, I can understand. The songs you chose are also from the album 7555. I think that's also very much about Portugal's and their history of Portugal, if I remember correctly. Did you deliberately choose for that album to be having such a feature there? Having such a feature there.
Yeah, I mean, for many reasons, not only because the fact we were playing it in Portugal, because I mean, a lot of the audience come from abroad too, from the Netherlands, from Egypt, from Mexico, from the US. It was quite crazy to see all these people, traveling to Lisbon for the occasion, which is very flattering for the band. But from all the Moonspell albums, the album that wanted that we thought it will sound better. We thought it will be the foundation of if a show like this happened was 1755, because it was made with some real instruments already, but most of it is virtual orchestration, and it's very well done. Some people thought it was the real thing, in the age of technology. But the narrative of that album, which is about the great earthquake of Lisbon that completely destroyed Lisbon and changed the face of the world back then, especially Europe when it comes to society, religion, philosophy, etc. So it was the last big event of the Enlightenment, let's call it this way, and a very violent one. And we recorded the concept album about that. Obviously, people think, well, probably that's not the obvious choices, but I don't think Moonspell is a band known for making the obvious choices. Some people think we're crazy, some people, but it's not about feeling better than others, but about being crazier than others. It's just what we feel inside. And what we felt inside is that this album will have to be the basis of our set list. And when we do more orchestra shows, we just announced one for the March 13 in Mexico. It's going to be also the same repertoire. And the rest, I mean, we wanted to have a flow. We wanted to have a dynamics. We wanted to have our evergreens, especially Vampiria, that worked really well with the orchestra. I could see that happening. Alma Mater, because it's a very epic song, very known song. Full Moon Madness, but also all the songs like Breathe, Until We Are No More, Extinct from this album. Surprises like the instrumental that is not a very known song, and then we get a very brutal song of Moonspell. So I think we made hard choices, but I feel very at ease with the repertoire because it had a flow, it had a dynamic, it had some surprises in there. Probably wasn't the repertoire that some songs like Opium was out of it, for instance, for the disappointment of many people. But I mean, we had so much resources, like 45 musicians, that with all due respect for Opium, is one of the best songs, but it's a rock and roll song. It's 3 minutes long, so we didn't want to waste 3 minutes just with this full orchestra. So yeah, it's not that we're going to tour with this. We're probably going to have a few more shows here in Portugal, Mexico. We're entertaining ideas of playing it not on festivals because it's too confusing, but definitely on some one-off shows throughout Europe. And we'll probably add something, take something, but this will be the core of the show, this repertoire we chose for Opus Diabolicum.
Amazing. I think if you, I wonder. I mean, I can understand how you get the music then there together, but how about designing such a show, like for the space and the visual side of that?
We have a very simple, minimalistic, but very elegant design. We made some structures. We had some video walls too. But for me, the main aesthetic aspect was the contrast between the orchestra attire and the leather and the metal thing. That will be, it's a very simple idea, but that would be for us the biggest contrast. So we had a very, I would say, minimal stage, but we tried to put the orchestra in the center behind the band. Of course, and to have something like a light show, a production that was also typical from the productions we saw, not really in metal, because sometimes it's over the top, but more of classical operas, etc., more in the modern style. Let's call it this way. I think it worked really well. We thought about all of that ourselves. Pedro, our keyboard player, has a keen eye on for design. He also has a degree on ergonomics, so that helps him to have a different view of design. So we made it locally, and then we just created this design that you can see. It's like the diagonals mosaic over there, and we didn't go over the top, and it looks great. I have to say that we also worked with two fans. They were the ones who directed the DVD, not any, I mean, they're professional now, but not any known director here from Portugal or people that had experience. It was a big gamble. I chose them myself. We had some experience with them in short after movies and the theater tour we did in Portugal. But they stepped up and they said, well, we want to do it. And everybody thought, oh, labels and consultants or whatever say it's pretty crazy to give this to these youngsters. But I was really, really sure that they will deliver a fantastic job. And I think they did, because they are huge Moonspell fans, and they knew where everything was, the smile, the drop of sweat, the guitar solo, the drum break, and I think it's really fantastic what they did. They're just starting a company called Of Dream and Drama Productions, which is also a Moonspell song, an old song from Moonfart. And I mean, this kind of stuff. I like to be adventurous too. I know music business and music industry for me got too predictable and too boring. Sometimes I go to shows. I go to smaller shows now because they surprise me more. There's more stuff happening. Sometimes I go to a show and it's like there's already a script, and I know exactly what people will shout and what people will do. So I didn't want this for Moonspell. I want something on the edge, and to work with these two youngsters, very inexperienced. I mean, people are just experienced if you give them a chance, and that's exactly what we did. And the visuals of the whole thing, not only the show, but what we call the vox pop of the fans, the meet and greet, the rehearsals, etc. I think they did a terrific job. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, if they are big fans, then they know exactly what to look for and what your vision is on those.
Yeah, normally you have a bunch of people who you resort for video clips and etc. But I also like to. It's not the first time; it won't be the last. I also like to work with people that are still unknown in the scene, and that can give a fresh look, fresh perspective, fresh ideas. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. That's how we grow new things. Looking at the songs that you've already released as a single, for example, the Vampiria one, for me, I thought it was a surprising choice, as I think pretty much everyone who's seen you live has seen that song. Why did you choose for that one as a release then?
It's always the first soldier in the battle, so it's kind of you need to send something strong, and you need to make a statement. And Vampiria, it's a very old song from Moonspell. We kind of have a love and hate relationship with it, because I think it aged not so gracefully as other songs of Moonspell. But two things happened. I started after seeing Robert Eggers' Nosferatu, I started to dwell again, being drawn back again to these vampiric themes, because the movie and the soundtrack are great. And when it comes to the song itself on its orchestral version, the arranger Philippe Melo, it was like what we call a happy accident, because everybody knows that Vampiria ends in a more aggressive way, with double kick, with heavy guitars. But we couldn't really find the way of the band playing it with their orchestra. So someone had the idea, I think it was Pedro or Felipe, just let Fernando do the spoken word with an orchestra. And all of a sudden, it sounded like amazing. It sounded like a soundtrack. It sounded like a true vampire song. So that's why we decided, because it's so surprising, even this new outlook on such an old and classic song from Moonspell that we decided to release it at first single. And people were really into it. I mean, it's for us, people say, oh, you have to release a lot of singles. And I said, I still look at the things and I don't think I'll change as a whole, because we played the whole show. We just didn't play, we just played more than Extinct or In Tremor Day or Vampiria. So you have to see it in the context. But it is what it is. We decided to release this 3 songs, but of course I asked people to see the whole show because, we live in a world of teasing and not giving everything, so people, it's not what we want to do, but it's an appetizer for the whole thing. That's what Moonspell is focused in giving people, because I mean the work is from Tungstenio, the intro, up to the very last notes of Full Moon Madness. That's the thing we did on that October night in 2024.
Makes sense, but I think it's a nice way of getting the attention from people by picking those tunes. Did you actually for the show got to rehearse a lot with the orchestra? I mean, if people comes from all over the place, I can imagine that must be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an easy thing to logistically to make happen. But what we did was 5 rehearsals, 3 just the orchestra with us just watching it. It was beautiful. I say we even thought that the arrangements plays and some parts of the Moonspell music, we were even like, wow, now we're gonna play it and we're gonna spoil it because it was so magical. And then we did 2 big rehearsals with their orchestra. Honestly, we didn't need it more because everything was very well prepared in time, very professional. We had a fantastic crew behind us, and also the maestro is really good, Maestro Vasco. So we definitely had to practice with the orchestra, but we didn't want to practice 10 times or 15 times or 20 times. We wanted to play just 2 times before, one time just to break the ice, another time just to make sure, and then of course in the night of the show. I think when you over prepare, sometimes you just lose the spontaneity and you lose the gut feeling of music. So we just did in total Moonspell plus orchestra was just a total of two rehearsals before the night of the show, and then we had a day off, and then we went to the arena and played it. Yeah.
Amazing. If you look at this, how do you look at the future? I mean, you're not done with this release so yet, but how do you think that you can take something from this to a future release, for example?
Well, our new album is written, so we just have to record it. It's not an orchestra album; it's a gothic metal album with keyboards, guitars, romance, atmosphere, vampires, wolves. It's Moonspell and under this genre again. So I think it will be a really cool album. We're very excited about it, and we were doing it while we were doing the orchestral stuff. But you're right. I mean, now that we know the people, that we know the process, that we know all the musicians, I think sooner or later we'll pick up and record an album already with the orchestra by scratch, because we liked so much the result of the live album that probably will be a great idea also to use orchestra for another album, maybe another Portuguese sang album. Let's see if we get the right idea. But I mean, Moonspell is a learning band, and we learned a lot from this. We always enjoy the process. We always enjoy the conclusion of the process. We always move on to nowadays. Our focus is totally on the new album and the recordings that are going to start in 2 weeks. The album is coming out, I think, in the summer of 2026. So, but we have a lot of great memories, and that's why we also made the release, because it could have been just one night for the books, and people that were there, and people that weren't there, they weren't there. But I think this deserved this opportunity of being released, because, I mean, we started touring in '95, and there's a lot of special moments that just the people were there witnessed it, which is great by one side. But we lost so many opportunities, so many magical moments, because we didn't have the technology or the investment or the time that nowadays we kind of record almost everything we do, or parts of it. So we have, as they say now, content more to the fans, and I think that everybody is happy about it.
I have one more question that I ask everyone here on the series, and is like, do you have a Christmas wish or something wisdom that you want to share with the world?
Well, yes, I have. It's like Miss Universe, but I think it's very genuinely and very, uh, I'll say, contemporary and meaningful, to wish that we all get along better, and that the wars that have been plaguing us for the last 10 years or so will stop. There will be a great Christmas gift for everybody. Peace on earth, definitely.
No, those are some really nice words. Thank you. Thank you for your time. I really enjoyed listening to the album so far, and yeah, I'm definitely gonna see you again on the road somewhere. So,
All right, thanks for having us. All the best.